Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm Tami Stackelhaus, fibromyalgia coach, author, and founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute. The goal of this podcast is to empower you with access to the dream team of experts and coaches I've discovered are key to living the fibro life you love. From the comfort of your own home, and maybe even your pajamas, I'll help you take back control of your life and health. To help out with FibroFog, I always include full show notes and additional resources at fibromyalgiapodcast.com. You're listening to the Fibromyalgia Podcast with Tami Stackelhaus, episode 33. Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tami Stackelhaus. In today's episode, I want to set aside the other things that we had planned and focus on COVID-19 and fibromyalgia. I know I mentioned in the last episode some of the things we were going to be talking about today, and I've actually deferred that to future episodes. So stay tuned. We'll get to those topics eventually. But with everything that's been happening in the world over the last couple of weeks, I thought it would be much more important today to talk about COVID-19. I've gotten a lot of emails, a lot of questions from listeners asking things like, are we at a higher risk? Should I be worried? Is this going to affect me more? And to be totally honest, there's a lot of questions that I don't know the answer to. But I've reached out to a lot of the doctors I know, interviewed them to try to get you some answers. Now, healthcare providers right now, as you can imagine, are totally swamped. So I wasn't able to get anyone here to actually interview in person. They're all worried about taking care of their patients right now, which is exactly where I want them to be. So instead, what I was able to do was send out some email questions and get some answers back by email. And so I'm going to share the information that I have with you here today. Of course, this should not be considered medical advice. This should not replace you talking to your own doctor about your own situation. While this information is coming from doctors, they're not your doctors, and so they don't know your situation. So please make sure you do talk with your providers about what the best thing is for you to do. The other caveat I want to give is just simply, there is so much we don't know about this virus. There haven't been any long-term studies because we have only known about it for a few months, right? So we honestly don't know specifically how it affects people with fibromyalgia. We haven't had a chance to study that or research that yet. So everything that I'm giving you today is going to be accurate to the best of my knowledge as of today, as I'm recording this. Now, it's totally possible between now and when this episode is published that we might learn something that totally contradicts what I'm saying here. So just know I'm doing the best I can and giving you the most current information that I have as of the time that I record this, and just, take that with a grain of salt, knowing that there's a lot we don't know. So I'm just going to dive right in and go straight to the question that everybody has been asking. As someone with fibromyalgia, am I at a higher risk for COVID-19 than most people on the planet? And I've gotten a lot of answers from a lot of doctors, and they all have said, in general, when we're talking about the illness fibromyalgia, the syndrome fibromyalgia, the disease fibromyalgia, whatever you want to call it, we are not specifically at a higher risk because of fibromyalgia itself. Now, I say that with a little asterisk at the end because most of us who have fibromyalgia have other things as well. Fibromyalgia doesn't typically come all by itself. We also know that there are a lot of immune system issues, nutritional deficiencies, things that are just off in the body in various ways. And those things sometimes can lead to a higher risk. To give you an example, I'm going to read a quote from Dr. Lynn Webster. This is from an article that he wrote for Pain News Network titled, "Are You at a Higher Risk for Coronavirus?" And he says, since chronic pain can compromise the immune system, Pain patients should follow the best available advice to protect themselves from exposure to COVID-19. The potential of infection is a serious issue that should not be dismissed, particularly for people with chronic pain and illness. Dr. Webster is the author of The Painful Truth. He's also the co-producer of the documentary It Hurts Until You Die. And he spoke at a conference that I was at several years ago. He's a pain doctor, used to be practicing. Now he is more in the role of educator and author. So I do trust his opinion on that. Another doctor that I've talked with, this is my personal physician, Dr. Kaylee Bourgeois. She says, although the diagnosis of fibromyalgia alone does not necessarily make someone more at risk for this infection, we do need to consider that individuals with fibromyalgia often have more nutritional deficiencies, sleep struggles, and hormone imbalances, which can impair the immune system's ability to fight. So the answer is no, but yes. So fibromyalgia specifically, maybe not. But all the things that come along with fibromyalgia, the nutritional deficiencies, the problems we have with sleep, those all do affect our immune system's ability to fight off infections, any kind of infection. And so that generally does make us a little bit more susceptible to illness in general. So who is then at a higher risk? As far as what we know right now, it's particularly older individuals, people who have heart and lung disease. Asthma is one of the ones that gets thrown in there often, which I always pay attention to because I have been diagnosed with asthma. And really those who have problems with their immune system, particularly if their immune system is compromised in some way, something like chemotherapy or other things like that would suppress your immune system. If you are someone who has something like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, taking medications that help to suppress your immune system, that type of autoimmune condition where you're taking a medication that suppresses your immune system, that suppresses your immune system for lots of stuff, not just the autoimmune component of your illness, right? It's also suppressing your immune system, your ability to fight off other illnesses. So if you fall into those categories, you should absolutely consider yourself in the higher risk category. So the way that I am approaching this and the way that I am recommending that my clients approach this, the way I recommend you approach this, is to live your life following the recommendations for those who are a higher risk. Honestly, I wish everybody on the planet would follow the recommendations for those who are at a higher risk. This is what we've been hearing about with social distancing, which personally I would prefer it if we called that physical distancing, because we can still be social without being physically close to one another, and just really helping to avoid the spread of the illness in any way. Now, if you're wondering why that is so important, one of the best examples that I've heard is if you consider the virus like glitter. If you've ever done any crafts with glitter, if you've ever gotten a card in the mail that had glitter on it, if you ever, had a costume that had glitter on it, that stuff gets freaking everywhere, right? Like you get it on your hands. Next thing you know, you've got some on your face and in your hair and on your purse and on your phone and in the car, and you vacuum and you can't get rid of it. Like it's spreading and spreading and spreading. That's what this particular virus is like. So if you stay home, if you've got your glittery hands and you wash them, but you still have some in your hair and on your face and in your phone because you just can't get rid of it all, if you don't go out and shake hands and hug other people and pass money to them, then you're not spreading that to other people. I think it's really important, as I talk about, like in our last episode, remember I talked about the difference between focusing on your illness versus focusing on wellness. I think the same thing is the case here. You could stay at home because of fear, Or you could stay at home because of love. And really, the love is what we want to focus on, right? If you're listening to this, if you maybe are listening to this, you don't have fibromyalgia. I have a few friends that I know who are listening who don't have fibromyalgia. If you have friends or family who are listening to this and you love somebody with fibromyalgia, that's why you should stay home. That's why you should practice this social or physical distancing, is to protect them. It's not so much about whether or not you're going to catch it. It's about who you might spread it to. And we want to protect all of our society, right? So your number one way of dealing with this is simply to protect yourself. And that means things like staying home, going out as little as possible, making sure you wash your hands, washing your hands correctly. It's been interesting over the last few weeks how we all have really learned how to wash our hands. So using those kinds of things, using disinfectant on your doorknobs, disinfecting your phone, your keyboards, things like that, and really doing everything you can to keep the virus at bay. So that's step number one, right? Working from the outside in. The first thing is avoid exposure as much as possible. That is absolutely the best way to get through this, right? I heard on one of the radio stories I was listening to, it was emergency room doctor talking, and he said, if you don't go to the gym, you reduce your risk of catching it at the gym to zero, right? Because you're not there. So the more we can reduce, the better your chances of not catching it. The second thing to do then is to make sure that your body, your immune system, is absolutely as healthy as possible. Because really, this is a virus, I won't say just like, I almost said that, but that's not quite what I mean. Viruses, your body is designed to fight off. That's what your immune system is for, is when you catch these things or you have a bacterial infection or whatever it might be. That's what your immune system is there for, to find these foreign invaders and kill them, right? And if your immune system is strong and healthy, then that's going to increase your body's ability to fight off this particular virus, or keep the virus down as much as possible so that you have mild symptoms. Of course, there's so much we don't know, as I said at the beginning. So this isn't necessarily a promise that if you do these things, you'll have low or mild symptoms, but it increases your chances. And that's really the best that any of us can ask for right now. So to support your immune system, what are the things that you can do? Well, there's actually a lot that you can do. It's super, super important to address vitamin deficiencies, particularly low vitamin D, which is something that we know is often low for fibromyalgia patients anyway. So if you have fibromyalgia, there is a high chance of you actually having a vitamin D deficiency. If you know you have a vitamin D deficiency, you're probably already taking some vitamin D and making sure that you keep that level where it should be. But if not, that's something that you can consider and talk with your doctor about. Another one that's really important is zinc. A lot of people misunderstand what zinc does for you. The best way that zinc can actually help you is to make sure that your immune system is strong, so that when you're exposed to a virus, you have a better chance of fighting it off. So making sure that your body is not low in zinc. It can be important for some of us to take that every day. I actually do have a daily amount of zinc that I take every day, because I know that for me is super important. When I was talking with my doctor about this, Dr. B said that supporting glutathione production is also beneficial for immune function. Two of the things that she is recommending for that, one is selenium, which those of you who have any kind of thyroid condition, you may already be on selenium, and N-acetylcysteine, NAC. That is, those two supplements can really help your body to produce more glutathione. So really making sure that you're giving your body all the building blocks that it needs. Things like sleep. If you don't get enough sleep, that will suppress your immune system. Things like, unfortunately, caffeine and sugar can sometimes suppress your immune system. So making sure that you're eating a healthy diet, fresh fruits and vegetables, vitamin C, all of these things. It's all the same stuff that you guys hear all the time, right? Like I'm probably not saying too many things that are new here. We just need to keep doing them, right? It's the same thing you would do during cold and flu season, right? So just keep doing it, focusing on keeping your immune system healthy. I have talked in the past about one of my favorite little bits of trivia. There was a study that they did with law students. I know I mentioned this on a previous podcast episode, though right now I don't remember which one. They did this study where they asked law students what they thought about their future. Basically, they were looking to see how hopeful they were, how positive their outlook was on life. So they asked them things like, how do you think you'll do on the next test? What do you think life is going to be like for you in the future? And then they would inject them with a substance that would check their immune response. The students that were more hopeful, had a more positive outlook for their future, had a stronger immune system response. So as we're talking about making sure your immune system stays strong, one of the things we have to talk about is your mindset. And whether you are, like I was saying earlier, focusing on the fear or the love here. And this is something that is going to be true all throughout your fibromyalgia journey. What we focus on grows. I talked about that in the last episode. So if you're focusing on the fear, if you're focused on, oh my goodness, are we going to be like stuck at home for 18 months? I think was one of the things that I had read. Or are we, what happens? Is my company going to go out of business? What if you're not getting paid right now? Like there's lots and lots of worries. The more you focus on those, the more that fear grows, the more suppressed your immune system becomes, truly. So if you can, even a little bit at a time, start focusing more on the positive. Start reading the stories about the people who just got better. I just right before I hopped on to do this recording, I was reading about a 95-year-old grandma who was recovering from COVID-19. So there are those stories out there. You can focus on the fact that so much of the world over the last many years has been almost praying for things to stop for a moment. I know I've had that thought, oh gosh, I just wish the world would slow down for a second. There's just too much going on all the time. Well, we've gotten that wish. Things have slowed down. It's almost like we're on vacation, if you think of it that way. Now, you could be stressed out and you could be worried and you could be wondering how things are going to get paid for and all of this kind of stuff. You could be the person who's worried about the toilet paper. Or you can focus on the fact that maybe you have more time to pursue some hobbies, or I tell you what, my kitchen has never been cleaner. There's so many things. My husband and I are in the process of buying a house. We're able to save so much money right now by not going out to dinner and not going to the movies and all of those things, right? I truly believe that for everything that happens in life, there is a positive side to it if you look for it. The question is, are you looking for it? The more you can focus on that, the stronger your immune system is going to be. So this isn't just about the woo-woo aspects, the law of attraction aspects of bringing more of what you want into your life. This is about the biology of your immune system being stronger and making you more able to fight off this virus if you're exposed to it. So another question, so just to recap, like building your immune system, make sure you're getting enough sleep, make sure you're eating healthy, make sure you address any vitamin and mineral deficiencies, make sure that you're talking with your doctor if you have any hormonal imbalances that need to be addressed, all of these things. And basically, just try to be as healthy as possible. And don't forget, in this focus on health and strengthening your immune system, that what you think affects your immune system as well. So try to be more hopeful, focus on the positive, and try to do what you're doing out of love instead of out of fear. So then moving on to the next question. One of the questions I had as we've been talking about building the immune system and really strengthening that, one of my clients asked, is it bad to boost the immune system if you have an autoimmune disease? If you have autoimmune, what that means is your immune system is attacking your body in some way. I personally have Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid condition where my body basically thinks my thyroid is evil. It's trying to attack it and kill it, right? So if you have an overactive immune system, then do we really want to be doing these things to strengthen the immune system? Is that a bad idea? So I thought that was a great question. And I do know that there are lots of ways of boosting the immune system that actually help normalize that autoimmune response. One of the things is vitamin C. Vitamin C is often used to treat autoimmune disease. It also strengthens the immune system. So that's something that's safe for both. One of the other things that I use is low-dose naltrexone, which we've talked about a few times in these podcast episodes, and I will definitely be doing a podcast episode on low-dose naltrexone. But until we get there, I'm just going to put a few links in our show notes page so that you can learn more about this if you want to. But one of the things that LDN does is it normalizes the immune system. So it strengthens the immune system for like being able to fight off viruses and things like that. But it also calms down that overactive immune system when it comes to autoimmune. So I take it for my fibromyalgia. I also take it for my Hashimoto's. And it's one of the things that I think is helping to protect me and protect my health when it comes to COVID-19. So other than those things, I was like, that really is a good question. And honestly, I don't know the answer to that completely. So I asked my doctor about that. And Dr. B sees a lot of people with autoimmune. And so I love her answer. She says, boosting the immune system by addressing nutritional deficiencies and supporting glutathione production are safe options for those with autoimmune disease. Although there are a great amount of immune stimulating herbs out there, I prefer to take the approach of addressing nutritional deficiencies and supporting glutathione production because there is a less risk of aggravating the autoimmune. So if you're seeing a lot of things out there about herbs that you can take, about those types of things, that is something potentially to be careful of if you do have an autoimmune condition. If you are simply addressing the nutritional deficiencies in your own body, if you're supporting that glutathione production, that is a much safer route to go. Again, always talk to your own provider because your particular situation, your particular illness, there may be reasons for you to do or not do different things. There are lots of things out there. Mushrooms, garlic is a natural antibiotic. Echinacea is something people use often. All of these things, elderberry is another one. These are all things that potentially could be helpful to boost your immune system, but might not be a good choice if you have autoimmune. I've also heard conflicting stories about things like elderberry. For COVID-19, there is potentially an additional risk there, kind of like we've been hearing with ibuprofen. It's like we hear stories that, do it to help take the fever down, and then we hear don't do it because it seems to complicate symptoms. And there's, like I said at the beginning, so much we don't know. But if there are nutritional deficiencies that your body has, we know we need to correct these for your body to be healthy anyway. And so that is absolutely a safer route to go for sure. A lot of people have asked how COVID-19 affects fibromyalgia. Does it affect people differently with fibromyalgia than the symptoms that they're talking about out there? And honestly, we don't know. It hasn't been around long enough. We haven't been studying it long enough. We honestly don't know. I would suspect, so this is just Tami talking here, this is just my suspicion, fibromyalgia tends to be an amplifier. So we tend to, you stub your toe, your whole body lights up in pain. So I absolutely believe that if somebody with fibromyalgia does get this particular virus, it probably is going to be amplified. You are probably going to be even more tired. You're probably going to hurt even more. Like it's going to take everything up a notch. So there is a huge likelihood that your pain is going to be greater than somebody who doesn't have fibromyalgia because of the fibromyalgia. Your fatigue is going to be greater than somebody who doesn't have fibromyalgia because that's what fibromyalgia does, right? Your sleep is already bad. You get this illness, it's going to be even worse. Like we just know that that's going to happen, which is one of the reasons why I am living as if I'm in the high risk category, because I know, if I do get sick, like just thinking about my husband and myself, I am going to suffer more than he is going to, because my fibromyalgia is an amplifier, because I have asthma, because I have autoimmune, right? So, again, we don't totally know the answer to how the symptoms are going to be different for somebody with fibromyalgia, but I would expect them to be amplified. Another question that has been asked is, do we know what helps people recover faster? And really, we honestly don't know. You guys have probably been hearing about vaccines, about possible drug treatments, but the reality is right now as I'm recording this, we honestly don't know. It just hasn't been around long enough. We haven't been able to try things long enough. And hopefully over the next few weeks and months, we're going to be seeing more and more what is true and what isn't. So I highly recommend talking with your doctor. If there's something you think you should do or try, run it by your doctor first. There's just so much we don't know. So for right now, the main focus is on just helping your body be as healthy as possible, right? Adequate intake of vitamins and minerals, healthy antioxidant-rich foods, avoiding exposure to any type of respiratory infection. So even getting the cold or the flu or anything like that, really making sure that you keep yourself as healthy as possible. That's going to give you absolutely the best chance. Now, another question I ran by my doctor. You may have heard people talking about the cytokine storm that happens for some people with COVID-19. And you may have noticed that word cytokine has been used sometimes with fibromyalgia. For instance, the FMA test, the fibromyalgia blood test, one of the things it does is it measures levels of cytokines and chemokines in the blood to do the diagnosis. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to ask Dr. B about, because again, this is an area I don't know as much about. And so I needed to ask somebody who knew a little more than me. So I asked her about the cytokine storm and if there was anything that people with autoimmune should do differently to help them recover. And I'm just going to read you her response here. She said, many of my patients are concerned about excessive production of pro-inflammatory cytokines, which on a large scale is often called a cytokine storm. Viral respiratory infections can cause a cytokine storm, so this term is popular right now in media and in articles. It's true that pro-inflammatory cytokine dysregulation has been linked with fibromyalgia, but there's no clear research to indicate that this dysregulation puts someone more at risk for a severe life-threatening cytokine storm if they become infected. So just to say that a little bit more simply, there's no research to say that having fibromyalgia is going to make you more at risk to have a more life-threatening reaction to COVID-19. She says, since reducing pro-inflammatory cytokines is beneficial, even without the risk of COVID-19, it's certainly a good time to make that a priority. So basically, reducing inflammation in your body is going to help no matter what. It's going to help with your fibromyalgia. It's going to help with COVID-19. So it's a great thing to do right now, regardless of whether you get the virus or not. Reducing inflammation in your body is going to help in lots of ways. She says basic approaches for reducing, or rather balancing, cytokine levels include the following, okay? 1, ramp up the intake of omega-3s. 2, increase sleep quality and quantity. 3, avoid processed foods. 4, cooking with turmeric. You can also take turmeric supplements if you would rather go that route. And 5, boosting glutathione via supplements and sulfur-rich foods like garlic. So basically, giving you some ideas for how to reduce inflammation in the body and balance out those cytokine levels. The reason she says balance there, just in case you're not aware, that lab test that I mentioned that diagnoses fibromyalgia, it's actually measuring cytokine levels that are lower in fibromyalgia than they should be. So it's not always more. So we need to get back to normal. Okay. So with that, that is all the information that I have here from the doctors that I know. I have been reminded by several of them, and it occurred to me that I haven't said this on the podcast recently, but with fibromyalgia, we do tend to be more sensitive to things in general, right? Fibromyalgia is an amplifier, so we are extra sensitive. A little bit of pain for us is a lot of pain. A little bit of fatigue is a lot of fatigue. And the same thing happens when it comes to taking supplements, taking medications. A lot of times we have to start with a much, much lower dose than someone who does not have fibromyalgia. So if you're looking into balancing out some of these vitamin deficiencies, if you're looking at taking extra vitamin C, for instance, remember to start smaller. So take that dose that's written on the bottle, cut it in half, maybe even cut it in a quarter, start with a low dose, and then work up gradually. Your body will thank you for that. A lot of us can also be sensitive and have negative reactions, not necessarily to the supplement, but to other things that are in the supplements, fillers and things like that. So make sure that you are choosing good quality supplements if you choose to go this route, and that you do a test. You try something, just one thing at a time. Try it, stop, wait a couple days, see how your body reacts, try it again. Try to look at all of this like a science experiment where you make one change and then you see what happens, and then you make another change and you see what happens. We've got time here, guys. And we need to not be proceeding in a panic. That doesn't do anybody any good. Now, last, before I close out this episode, I want to talk a little bit about the mindset aspect of all of this that I mentioned earlier. It's been hard the last few weeks. Some of you are on my email list. You may have seen the email I sent out a while back. I have just been more exhausted the last few weeks. I was talking with my husband about it, and he was saying he's been exhausted too. He doesn't have fibromyalgia. This isn't a fibromyalgia exhaustion. This is being exhausted because of everything that's happening in the world right now. It's overwhelming. It's stressful. It's just hard. It's weird. There's just so much going on, and it is just very emotionally draining. If you're someone who is empathetic at all, you're picking up on everybody else's emotions and stress, it's going to be even more draining. So, number one, just be gentle with yourself. This is not the time to be beating yourself up because of whatever reason, right? If you've got kids and they're at home, it's totally okay to not follow a schedule. It's totally okay to, build a blanket fort and watch movies in it. I personally, over the last week, have probably read 8 novels. It's just, we all have to do whatever it is that we need to do to take good care of ourselves, right? And what taking care of yourself looks like is going to be different for each one of us. There is no right or wrong way to go through a pandemic other than making sure that you keep your health safe and the health of the community and others in the community safe, right? So that means practicing that distancing that we've talked about to make sure that you are keeping the people that you love safe. But if you have to take extra naps, take extra naps. Right? If this is the time that you want to spend cleaning out the house, you've got time to do that. At the same time, if you're exhausted like I am, and you just want to be gentle with yourself and you just want to read 8 books in a week, that's totally okay too. So don't feel like there's something you should or shouldn't do. I've got clients right now that are putting their coaching on hold because they've got kids at home and it's just too much to deal with right now. And I've got other clients who are like, nope, I want to keep talking to you every week because you're my voice of sanity in the midst of all of this craziness. And that's okay too. So make sure that you tune into yourself, that you listen to your heart, and that you listen to that voice inside that's telling you what you need. And if you need more sleep, totally cool. If you need to binge watch Netflix, totally cool. If you need to go for a walk, totally fine. Do whatever it is that you need to do. I think my cat understands this better than I do. He has been extra cuddly lately. I'm not sure quite if that's for me or for him. I think sometimes our pets are God's little angels to give us what we need when we don't even know what we need. So anyway, the point of all of that is make sure you're being gentle with yourself and look at this time as a gift, as a breath, as a chance to rethink your priorities, right? There's so many things that we can't do right now. And I think so many of us get so caught up in saying yes to so many things. Our schedules get so full, and then we don't always know how to get out of them. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to take a breath, to reevaluate your priorities, your commitments. And when life gets back to normal, which it will at some point, we will all get back to normal at some point, then you'll be in a position to be able to rethink what it is that you want to do. Perfect opportunity. Take it as one. Now, I am not going to give you what I think our next few episodes are going to be about, because honestly, I am going to, over the next little while, however long it is, I'm going to be recording these episodes closer to when I release them so that I can give you guys more timely information. Under normal circumstances, I'm usually about a month out when I record my episodes. But right now, with everything changing from day to day so quickly, I want to keep that a little bit more flexible. So just know I do plan to keep recording these podcast episodes. So you will still have a new episode in your box about every 2 weeks. The team and I are trying to be flexible with our own families and health and schedules. So if you don't see an episode exactly when it's supposed to be out, just know there was a reason, and we'll get it to you as soon as we can. But as of right now, we are still planning to release every other Tuesday. And so just keep an eye on this. If there's more questions you guys have, by all means, send them in. Just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com. You'll see the Ask the Coach option, and you can send me any questions you have. Just know that right now I'm getting a lot more email than usual. It might take me a little bit longer to get back to you, but I will eventually get there. If you do need help during this time, I do have coaches who are taking new clients. I have space, I think, for one new client right now. And so if that's something that you're interested, we can absolutely do that. But honestly, you guys, I would take this as an opportunity to rest. I think of life like I think about the natural world, right? There's seasons. There is the spring when we are all growing and new things are blooming and new things are happening. There's the summer where things are maturing. There's the fall where we're harvesting the fruit of our labor, right? And there's also the winter where we hibernate and we rest. And I think even though, here in Seattle, Washington, outside my window, it is very definitely spring. But I do think as a whole right now, we're in a social winter, so to speak. This is a time to pretend like you're a big furry bear and like hibernate in your house, get extra rest, be gentle with yourself, and spring will come. Spring will come. And then there will be time to grow. But right now is a time to rest. So again, if there's anything you guys need, I am here for you. And I hope that you will take this opportunity to just be with your family, love those that you love. If you have family that aren't close to you, I hope that you will, find ways to be close virtually. I was telling my mom last night, that's one of the awesome things about right now is we have all this technology. We can use things like FaceTime and Skype and Zoom to have face-to-face calls when we're not in the same room. We can play games online with people who are on the other side of the world. We can stay in touch through Facebook and text messages and email. And so, like I said before, I want to think of it as physical distancing instead of social distancing, because we can still stay socially and emotionally close, even though we may be physically apart. So be well, take good care of yourself, and I'll see you back here in a couple weeks. Bye. And that wraps up another episode of the Fibromyalgia Podcast. If you're ready to see if working with a fibromyalgia coach can help you feel better faster, visit fibromyalgiapodcast.com, where you can schedule a complimentary consultation to explore your options. During this call, we'll discuss your fibromyalgia journey, what your needs and challenges are, and give you recommendations on how to reach your goals the quickest way possible. Thank you for tuning in today, and join us next time as we explore more ways to help you take back control of your life and health. My music and sound editing were done by Daniel Munkus at Subtle Soup Records. Podcast management and creative copy by Sonia Louise of Performance Podcasting.